all you plumbers out there, a question I always get is, where do I put the union in the temperature and pressure relief valve off the water heater? Well, the code's kind of vague on this, but it's required to be in the vertical drop from the TMP before you make your first turn. That way you can disconnect this union, remove this from the TMP, replace the TMP valve, and then put it all back together with the same pieces of pipe. That way too, if you do disconnect it, you can pull the heater straight out. And that's where you're supposed to put the union on a TMP valve. Quick tip on something you need to do on every single gas water heater that you install, and that's leak test it after you fire it up and start the burner burning. So how do you do that? You use a gas sniffer. Let's turn the gas sniffer on, have it ticking slowly. You're gonna run your gas sniffer here around all your fittings, such as this, all the way back to where the gas flex goes in the wall. See if anything comes out. Then you have this lit up and running, and you're gonna put your gas sniffer down here on where your pilot light and your burner is while it's burning, and even all the way around this gas control valve, because even they can have leaks in them at times. And that's how you should test your gas control valve. Always make sure and test all gas connections on a gas water heater after installing it, even though it's a new installation. You know what one of the biggest misconceptions is about tankless water heaters? Is that they give you instant hot water. They do not. They heat the water instantly as it passes through it, but they give you endless hot water. That means as long as you're running the faucet, you're gonna have hot water coming out of it. So it doesn't give you instant hot water, it gives you endless. But we can fix that instant hot water thing if you need it. Hey everyone, one of the most important things you can do after installing an expansion tank is make sure that you check the incoming water pressure, and then you're gonna match the air pressure on the tank with the incoming water pressure. You put this on your outside hose bib, you put your tire gauge on your expansion tank, and you match that pressure. That way it'll take care of any thermal expansion happening in your hot water system. Hey everybody, this is for the plumber and the do-it-yourselfer, but primarily plumbers out there. When you go into a house and you are gonna look at a tankless water heater, do you know if it's got enough gas supply to it? Well, 3 things you can look at right away. First of all, it needs to have 1-inch iron pipe coming to it if it's run any distance longer than 2 to 3 feet. Now, if it's right off of main and it's a short piece of 3/4, you're okay. But if it's any longer than 2 to 3 feet, it needs to be at least 1 inch. Secondly, a full port, full open ball valve. The little small red appliance ball valves will not be enough gas. And thirdly, a large gas flex. A standard gas flex for a water heater only carries about 136,000 BTUs. This large gas flex here, up to 3 feet long, carries 230,000 BTUs. 3 things you can look at right away to know if your tankless has enough gas. What is a water heater anode rod? Well, this is a really quick explanation. This is an anode rod. This is made out of either aluminum or magnesium, and it's actually called a sacrificial anode rod. Why? Because we sacrifice it to protect our water heater. The tank is made out of steel. This is what the water prefers over the steel tank. It's kind of like if you had a T-bone steak steaming hot in a room and you put a hot dog on the other side of the room and you let a real hungry dog in there. He's gonna go for that steaming hot steak. Well, this is the steaming hot steak. You either have it going in the hot water side, right on top of this, or it may have its own port going in the top. Goes down inside the tank, and that's what an anode rod does. It protects your steel tank from corrosion. You know, a very common problem that happens to water heaters is the pilot light goes out. Sometimes it can be high winds, the gas company shut the gas off for some reason, or there could be other issues that happen. But how do you relight your pilot light? Well, first of all, we need to turn it to pilot. This is your gas control valve. You'll see off, pilot, vacation, low, hot, and then it goes on ABC to very hot. Well, at the pilot setting, this will push in. Any other settings, it won't push in. We're gonna push that in, and this is the igniter right here on most gas control valves. It's either here or over here, and we wanna push it in. Now, push this in as fast as you can, like this right here. A lot of the instructions will say push it once every 5 seconds, but from a professional plumber, this is the way we do it. Keep pushing that in, holding it down. If it's quiet, you may be able to hear it light. If it's not, you may just have to wait. When it is lit, you'll hear a little click, and this light will start flashing, and you'll know your pilot light's lit. There you go. The light's flashing, and we know our pilot light is lit. You can let that up. Good to go. To all you plumbers out there, one thing you need to know, if you're gonna install a new water heater, you need to make sure whether or not the customer has a water softener. The brine tank softener has salt in it, and that salt destroys your tank. You have to have an electronic anode rod in tanks hooked up with a brine tank softener. This is the only thing that the manufacturers will approve to protect it and keep it in warranty. You have your controller, you have your anode rod. Now, one thing, don't get confused. These are great for tankless, but not for tank water heaters. So if you've got a tank water heater, check for the brine tank softener and put in that electric anode rod. Here in North Texas, we have a big problem with lightning strikes, and that can cause a big problem with your tankless water heater. Tankless water heater have computer control boards. As you see on this one right here, this one's installed in it. That's a good control board. Look right below that, we've got this one dark brown everywhere that we've got the waterproofing. This one right here, clear, clean. You can see every computer component. This one, dark brown also. Lots of darkness that you can't see everything. Both of these boards that are burnt here were on homes that were struck by lightning. That's what happens. You're not going to see any lights on your control panel. You're not going to see anything happening with your tankless. You're not going to have any hot water. If lightning strikes close to the house, look at your control board. There's a really good chance you're going to need to replace your control board. I'm standing here next to a 1.5-year-old tank type water heater. We've got it cut away here so you can see the inside. This water heater started leaking at 1.5 years old. Why? Because it was hooked up to a saltwater brine tank softener without any protection. If you're going to do that, you need to make sure and either put an electronic anode rod in it or change out the anode rod every year. Several of you commented that you didn't get a good look inside the tank when we were talking about the damage a brine tank water softener can do. Well, this is the very same tank, and let's take a closer look inside it now. As you can see on the flue right here, it has many rust spots that look like they're about to rust through. You can see what's left of the anode rod laying in the bottom of the tank that's even rusted off. This is only a 1.5 year old tank too, remember. Down at the bottom right, you see that very rusty spot going there. You see up here by the TMP valve port and the weld seam around the top. A lot of rust, and rust inside the middle of the tank right there. And then finally, down at the bottom where the port is for the gas control valve, you have a lot of rust there. That's the damage that a brine tank softener can do without the proper protection. This is in the North Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area. What happens in your area, I'm not sure, but with our experience, this is a consistent problem that we have when we have tank water heaters on brine tank softener. If you've ever installed a water heater, one of the things it takes longest to do is get the water out of the old water heater. Well, I've got a solution for you. The Milwaukee water heater evacuation pump. Now, in the case that we have a hurricane, the water heaters can evacuate and you won't have to worry about them. That's just a joke. So, it does evacuate the water out of the water heater though. All you need to do, take one hose, hook it up to the drain, take the other hose, run it outside or to a bathtub or somewhere where it won't do any damage if you run the water, and turn it on. It's battery powered, you don't have to put any cords out, and in 5 minutes or less, you're gonna have all the water out of that water heater. It'll even pump sediment out. So this is a great product. It's what I use on all my water heater replacements. What do we use a manometer for on a gas tankless water heater? Well, it tells us 3 things. First of all, it can tell us if our gas system is undersized. Secondly, it can tell us if we have a 2-pound hybrid system, if our regulator is malfunctioning, or on a low pressure system, if the gas company's regulator is not functioning correctly. And finally, it can tell us if the gas control valve on our tankless water heater is not operating properly. If you need more information on how to do those things, go to my in-depth video. Hey everybody, real quick note about securing your draft diverter and your single wall vent pipe or double wall vent pipe to the draft diverter on top of the heater. Per code, you're required to have 4 screws in the draft diverter. That means holding it down to the top of the heater, and 3 screws in your single wall vent pipe or double wall vent pipe. That's required by code, or your water heater will get a red tag if you have it inspected. That way, you won't have anything coming apart there at the top of your water heater causing a possible carbon monoxide leak. That's the only place you can put screws in a water heater vent. Hope this helps you out. Talk to you next time. Have you ever heard of a glass line water heater? Does a water heater really have glass inside it? Well, yes and no. Kind of like your coffee mug here. It has a porcelain coating on it that's like pottery glaze. That's kind of what we've got inside a water heater. Inside the water heater, and especially state water heaters, they have a coating called Blue Diamond. It's one of the most wonderful glass linings they've ever put in. And what happens is they put a powder inside it, bake it at 400+ degrees, and that turns to the same thing like pottery glaze on a coffee mug. protects every bit of the steel inside the heater. That's what a glass line water heater is.